Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
All right, well, Brewer fans, welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast with myself, Craig, and my co-host Vince Travato. How are you doing, Vince?
I'm doing great, Craigers. Do we have Scotty or Chad on for our postseason recap here today?
It doesn't appear to be the case. So yeah, unfortunately, we have to kind of put a wrap on the 2025 Brewers season. They did end up making all the way to the NLCS, and they did get swept by the mighty Los Angeles Dodgers in 4 games, and to end their season after they did win the divisional round, the NLDS against their rival, the Chicago Cubs, which was awesome. Unfortunately, they finished the season with the best record in baseball, the regular season, and had home field advantage throughout the playoffs. And you really thought this was a golden opportunity to make a legitimate run with the players that we had. And again, you knew that it was going to be a difficult task to get by either the Dodgers or Phillies or whoever were playing in the NLCS, really. And that proved to be the case as the Brewers' bats fell silent. You could say we scored exactly 1 run in every single of our 4 games. I was at game 1, and yeah, we had no signs of life at all until we got to the 9th inning. We finally got to their bullpen when they called him Sasaki. But Blake Snell, the creepy is, pitched the game of his life against us, and unfortunately, they threw 4 basically Cy Young level candidates against us in a row, including Ohtani, this generation's Babe Ruth, I guess I'll call her, this century's, and he basically pitched probably one of the best individual performance of any baseball player in Major League Baseball history, I guess, us on Game 4 to end our season. So, I mean, I want to say you could tip your cats some, but not necessarily in the mood to do that quite yet. So anyway, the bottom line is, I guess the question we need to step back and ask ourselves, would you quantify the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers season as a resounding success?
The resounding part, no. I think I just wouldn't use that word particularly. I think the success, though, yes, absolutely. And now that we have had, what has it been, a couple weeks and I know we've been we've been delaying taping this podcast, listeners, because it was an emotional letdown, of course, to be eliminated anytime in the postseason. But yes, I think the season was definitely a success. We had the most wins in baseball, and you pointed that out both to me separately in our pre-production meetings, Craig, and also on the podcast. And just kind of talking about how this team was different than other Brewer postseason teams of years past. We've obviously been blessed with a lot of postseason appearances, in the last decade, which is awesome and very impressive. And I like that. And I do think that this team was different from some of the other teams that we saw in the postseason in Brewers' recent history, meaning that, we did have the best record in baseball. We did deserve to be there. We were a team that could compete, and justifiably think that we could compete with the Dodgers and the Cubs and the Padres and the Phillies and whoever else that, we would have had to face in the postseason this year. That's why I don't say resounding. I just think that we were that good. We could have matched up. We were 6-0 against the Dodgers during the regular season. I know that was a different iteration of the Dodgers team with all the injuries that they faced in their rotation, but it was also a different iteration of the Brewers team in the postseason too, because we were missing Brandon Woodruff, and I think that made a big difference. And I think that our offensive collapse was both ill-timed, and we were facing a great Dodgers pitching staff. So I think that both can be true at the same time. So I will say that the season was an absolute success, best record in baseball, winning the Central Division, obviously, not getting bounced in the first round of the playoffs, beating our rival, Chicago Cubs in the NLDS, playing well enough to not even have to play in the first round. All of those things are great. I think that we're seeing a Brewers team that is probably the most complete team for the most part, as we've seen in years. And I think that this is the start, and you pointed this out too, and I think that you're right. I think this is the start and the continuation and the start of many good Brewers teams. I think that because of where our system is overall and kind of where this roster is at and the youth on the roster and sort of the steadiness of the front office. I think those are all really good things when you're in this position because you roll the dice a little bit differently and things could change against the Dodgers. That being said, I think there are some clear things that we could do to improve our chances in that position and put ourselves in a better position to succeed. So long answer, but I'll say yes to success. No, not a resounding success. The resounding success, now that we've established this benchmark for ourselves, I think is winning a World Series.
Yeah, I agree with almost all your points. Again, the 2025 season, I believe, was as our Brewer historian, correct me if I'm wrong, the 56th full Milwaukee Brewers season. And they finished the regular season with the most wins in franchise history. So with that alone, there's no way you can really call this a season not a success. Obviously, I think if the Brewers would have lost that playoff series against the Cubs and NLDS, people would be, throwing out the word failure. But the bottom line is,
Yeah,
we did get that monkey off our back, and that feels good. I feel like this is another step toward our eventual climb of the mountain, so to speak, and a pretty
yeah,
big
yeah,
one at
yeah,
that. Um,
yeah.
I mean, if you take a step back now and look at the remnants of what, obviously, like you're pointing out, we beat the Dodgers all 6 times we faced in the regular season, and having a 7-game series in the NLCS with home field advantage against them, we felt really good going into that one. But just their pitching, just our bats went cold. There's no other way to really
Yeah.
collectively like. There's no,
Well,
and again, you can chalk it up to great starting pitching by the Dodgers, and that's exactly what it was for the 4 games against us. And of course, they rode that to the
yeah.
World Championship against the Blue Jays. I'm trying to make myself feel
Well,
though
and let's
better.
let's be clear, Craig. Too, they're now back to back world champions. So I mean, they're not like some pushover team or whatever that we were expected to even win against. So that's not an excuse either. And I don't want to make excuses because we as a National League best record team, we aren't bad enough to make excuses. We're too good, I should say, to make excuses. So, but that being said, that's a super loaded Dodgers team, to be clear. And I will just say this too, and I don't mean to interrupt, but we held their offense in check for the most part throughout the series, including Ohtani, by the way, until the final game in Game 4, which was obviously a historically great game in baseball history. So that's something that I think that the Brewers pitching staff could also kind of take as a feather in their cap for next season as well. And I do think that missing Woodruff hurt because I think that would have given the overall staff a little bit more length as well. But anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, no, those are great points. I mean, the bottom line is, I felt like we put ourselves by getting past the Cubs in position and with our great regular season to face the Dodgers in the NLCS, one step away from the World Series once again. And this time I felt like we were in position and we had the mojo to shock the baseball world and make it past them in the World Series. That did not happen, which is just definitely disappointing. However, I try to
Yeah,
make myself feel better as a Brewer fan by thinking like, wow, I kind of am glad I wasn't a Mariner fan or even a Blue Jay fan, even though they did make the World Series, because it
yeah,
feels like losing. Baseball is difficult. It's really hard to be a fan of baseball with just the unbelievable amount of heartbreak when you get so close to the mountaintop, so to speak. And the Brewers have
yeah,
very rarely ever gotten anywhere near close to it in their 56 year season. So, I mean,
yep,
this is, it was a successful season. The exciting part, turning the page here, as we're doing in this podcast episode, is moving forward. The Brewers are in really good position. Not only did they finish with a very young team, propelled by lots of newcomers and rookies, but they are not losing a lot of key players this season, like most, and they have ranked the number 1 farm system in baseball. So the future for the Milwaukee Brewers and Milwaukee Brewers fans looks very, very bright. I do also,
yep,
on top of that, if there is a reward for Organization of the Year in MLB, I think the Brewers are absolutely a shoe-in from top to bottom. Obviously, the one complaint I would have is Mark Antanasio would have spent a little
yeah,
bit more money on the team. Maybe that would have been the one, key bat or something we needed to push us over the top. But overall, like
Yeah.
there's no complaints. Matt Arnold's got to be like executive of the year. Pat Murphy's
Yep.
probably going to win manager of the year.
Yep.
All of our coaches did a great job. All of our, it was a great team. It just felt like this was a magical team, and everyone was calling it Euchre Magic, whatever. But in reality, this is a team that really bonded and cohesed as a team together. I feel like the Blue Jays did a little bit of the same, and that which propelled them as far as they did. And I really think that this core of this team is going to be coming back for the next couple of years. And Mizorowski got some very valuable experience in the postseason. He
Yeah.
was like our best pitcher, even though he
And
wasn't a starter. So
and Chad Patrick too. I don't want that to get lost in the shuffle with Mizorowski, who I agree with you. Sorry, Brandon, on this, but I think Mizorowski is a future ace, and I think that Chad Patrick though is also a future top of the rotation starter. I really believe that. I watch this kid and I see not only a guy who's got great stuff and who's working on a fifth pitch, but a guy who I think is a real bulldog at the top of this rotation, a guy who wants the ball in very tough situations, who came out as a rookie and pitched incredibly well in both the regular season and dealt with the adversity of being sent down like 2 or 3 times, and then also came back in the postseason to pitch some huge innings for this team. And outside of a long home run to Ohtani, pitched very well. And that's certainly not, he's certainly not the only pitcher in baseball to give up a long home run to Shohei Ohtani. So I am super excited about him. I'm super excited about Miz, obviously. I'm super excited about Logan Henderson when he gets back. I know he's got a lower velocity approach. I think though that he also is a guy who's going to be kind of a linchpin in our rotation for many years. So I'm super excited about some of our young arms.
absolutely. And so that's our
I saw
segue.
I saw Coleman Crow got added to the 40 man already this offseason as well. He's kind of an understated piece of the Brewers minor league pitching depth because he was acquired in the Tyrone Taylor, Adrian Hauser trade from the Mets several years ago, I believe. That's where
Yeah,
we
and
got
he,
him,
he was
and
he was coming off a
he was
significant
injured at
arm
the time.
injury as a young
Yeah,
minor leaguer, and so that was another perfect example of how this organization is awesome at identifying buy low opportunities, and Cameron
yep,
Crowe was absolutely that. Someone with a very high ceiling, but you were able to get if you look all the way back to like when we acquired our current ace, Freddie Peralta, for in an Adam
yep,
Lind trade. It was very very
for Adam Lind,
similar,
yeah,
but where you're just taking a chance on a lottery ticket with a very high ceiling. The Brewers, a small market team, have to do such like things like that. So, but
yep,
getting back to you pointed out like the rotation, that'll kind of segue into a couple of the offseason moves that already happened. You can probably do a good job recapping that, Vince. But let me just point out
sure,
the first one is that we did pick up the team option on Freddie Peralta. Unfortunately,
yep,
Brandon Woodruff did decline his mutual option, so he'll become a free agent. And not that we couldn't re-sign him, but for sure we'll have Peralta back at the top of rotation. Then we got Mizorowski coming into his first full season as a starter, which is going to be very exciting. Then, like you said, you've got Chad Patrick and Quinn Priester, uh, two very young guys who had breakout seasons and very high ceilings still for both of these players. And then, like you said, you mentioned Logan Henderson should be back from injury, and also returning from injury at hopefully at full strength would be Robert Gasser as well. So, and then
yeah.
there's, like you said, there's other guys. There's more depth after
Well,
that, and
DL
that's
Hall,
yeah,
Ashby. I mean, one of those guys could slide into the rotation. And I will say too, in terms of our news, you did. I assume we can discuss this in a little detail here, but the Brewers yesterday, of course, offered Brandon Woodruff a qualifying offer, and Woodruff has an offer on the table now from the Brewers for 1 year, $21 million that he can take and accept or not. And not. It's been a while, I think, until Shane Bieber a couple days ago. It had been like a decade or something since somebody accepted that offer, and the Brewers did this with Willie last year. But it does put Woodruff in the position of saying, giving it, I would say, kind of an easy yes if it's me coming off of another injury-plagued season, but very successful when he does pitch. I'm saying yes, $21 million. It's essentially $31 million because there was the $10 million option already. So essentially a 1 year, $31 million contract play in a city that he knows, loves, can kind of reestablish some value, hopefully, and then go from there and either sign a longer deal with the Brewers or I guess become a free agent at that point. So if I'm Brandon Woodruff, I would absolutely say yes to that deal. I don't think you're going to get you're not going to get a bigger deal in terms of AAV. I do think that your average annual value. I do think though that you're he may try to look for a longer term deal. But that being said, I would come back in a place I'm comfortable with rather than test the market after another injury plagued season.
It will be an interesting decision for him to make. I will point out that, of course, the MLB trade rumors came out with their top 50 free agents, and I was a little bit almost surprised that they had Woodruff listed as the 17th best available free agent for the
Yeah,
offseason. In their speculation as far as like what his contract, I think they had him at like and let me call it up here. They had him 17th overall, just behind Devin Williams, who's 16th, by the way. They're speculating their guess on Woodruff to get a 3-year, $66 million contract. So
yeah,
basically, that's
fair enough.
two more guaranteed
Yeah,
years beyond. And not that he won't accept it. I think the more likely scenario would be the Brewers actually working out a long-term deal. In order to keep him, I think that they would need to. I wouldn't be against for everything, and maybe to give a little bit of a quote-unquote hometown discount to that price. But I think it would take the Brewers at least 3 years, 60 million to get him back into can to sign probably rather. And so. I wouldn't be against the Brewers doing that, I guess, for the most part, even with, but like you said, it kind of pushes some of these other young talents and might impede their
I,
development when it comes to like Logan Henderson and Robert Gasser not having a rotation spot. But the bottom line is, you can never have enough young pitching. You can always have those guys get the experience at AAA. So we'll see what happens with Woodruff. But there's I think there's less than 50% chance, but I think there is a decent chance that Woodruff could accept the qualifying offer. I think the Brewers would
yeah,
be almost fine if he didn't, because then they would get, of course, a draft pick compensation as well. So
yeah. I think it's a win-win for the Brewers, and that's kind of what I come back to. But listen, Brandon Woodruff was a guy that the Brewers showed incredible loyalty to after 2023. He suffered an injury that everyone knew he was going to miss all of 2024. He ends up missing half of 2025, including in very big moments. And I think that loyalty is a two-way street. So I know that it's a business. I understand all of that. I do think that the Brewers, to their great credit, went and it showed that sort of personal loyalty to Brandon Woodruff. He had, he appeared in only 12 games last year. So he's appeared in 12 games in 2 seasons. So I do understand that he's very talented when he's on the field. I do understand that he is a glue in the clubhouse. He's a mentor to young guys. All of those things are true. I don't think, though, that you can have too much depth. I don't think that signing him or bringing him back precludes having a very, active role for a lot of our young pitchers. Remember, Robert Gasser only appeared in 2 games for the Brewers in the regular season as well. So it's not like we don't have some injury question marks that are coming into the 2026 season next spring. So I think that Woodruff has got a comfort level in Milwaukee too that is very important to him. If you believe what he says, which I do, he talked about how him and his wife just love Milwaukee and they don't want to pitch in a bigger market. And I know a lot of guys say that, but this is a guy from rural Mississippi who I think really does believe that. I think that he's comfortable, and it sounds dumb, but like even seeing him, like I saw one of the shows that they do during rain delays was him and a couple guys like out fishing on Pewaukee Lake. Like I think he likes the Wisconsin summers. I think that he really finds there a comfort level in Milwaukee that he could not find in a place like LA or New York or some of the bigger markets that might be willing to, take a riskier, make a riskier contract offer to him. So I think that I would say it's about 50-50 myself. I think that it would make sense for him to accept that 1-year deal, do a make good deal. It's not like it's a low dollar amount. That would be a significant financial, commitment by the Brewers. So I think that if I'm Brandon Woodruff, I would seriously consider doing that and then going from there. And that would I think be a really nice bridge for next season and bring back both him and Freddie for at least 1 more year.
no, yeah, that'd be an ideal situation, and I just feel like his agent is going to say, with your injury history and your age, you should take the most guaranteed money on any contract given you, because you could take the
Yeah.
1-year deal at 22 million or whatever, but then you get injured or vault you're on this year, and then you have 0 value going forward. So, or close to
Yeah.
that. So I mean, the bottom line is, I think. Unfortunately, the location and fishing is all great, but when it comes down to the actual dollar, that's usually wins out. So unfortunately,
Yeah, of
my
course.
instinct is the Brewers aren't going to be able to are willing, and maybe they even shouldn't be. They're a smart organization, obviously, to give him the 3-year deal. I'd be willing to do it just because I feel that he's got
I would too.
an X factor to him, and to bring him back, I think would really strengthen our chances moving forward. And again, we have to start
Yeah.
looking at windows of time. Like even though I'm saying the future of the Brewers is awesome, obviously, I think that our future with our window with a couple of these guys. Friday we have for just next year, assuming we don't
Yep.
trade them. William
Right.
Contreras, we only have a couple more years of. I think we have 5 more years of Mizrowski before. So, but I mean, the bottom line is, Cheerio we have for a very long time, luckily, but I think
Yeah.
2031 or something. But the bottom line
We
is,
can have Scotty's interns check on that really quick, Craig.
yeah, because I think there's a couple of team options at the end of that too. We might even have them through 2033. We should probably check on that. But anyway,
Yeah.
the bottom line is, he's our superstars are locked up. We have a lot of nice young core of players, and really going into 2026, the only players. Okay, let's just assume that Woodruff does not come back. He would be our biggest loss, I guess, because other than that, we're probably losing Race Hoskins, who again is
Yeah.
being replaced by Vaughn, and then possibly Danny Jansen, even though he could resign with us as a backup catcher or depth. But really, we're bringing back the back of our bullpen. We're bringing back the bulk of our rotation, and really, if you look at our offseason needs, outside of upgrading shortstop, we really don't. I don't see a position on a diamond in the offense that we really even need to upgrade much of. I mean, outside
Well,
of depth and
I'm gonna disagree a little bit on that. First of all, and also Scotty's interns did give me a quick note here. Jackson Churio is signed through 2033. Well, he signed through 2031 with team options for
with two team
2032 and 20.
options, that'll be no brainers.
Yeah.
Yep, got it.
Yep. Yep. So he's not a free agent until after the 2033 season. Holy cow.
Awesome.
Okay. So just to get back to your recent point, Brewers definitely have a decision to make about Joey Ortiz. I think he's an elite defender. I think the metrics are finally catching up with him. I love that up the middle defense. That being said, the bat is pretty anemic. He's prone to very long slumps. I see that we've got a really good shortstop in the system, coming up, and Cooper Pratt, a couple more guys even behind Cooper. So we've got some depth there. We may want to see what we have with Cooper to see if we need to make some changes to either, Jesus Mate or Brett. Like we got to look at ways that we can fit all this talent into the lineup and get them onto the field. So I do think that we're kind of at a point with Joey. He's had 2 full seasons now in the major leagues. He's still a young guy, and he's got a lot of talent. So I don't know what we want to do with that. Does Joey become, trade bait? And if he is, are we going to get absolute maximum value for him right now? I don't think so. Is he going to become a depth utility piece who plays great defense in later innings? Maybe. Is Cooper Pratt ready to make the major league? Like, these are all real questions for shortstop. The point I disagree with you on a little bit is, and I don't know which position we're going to have to do this at, but we need to infuse some power into this lineup. I look at what happened in the playoffs. It is very clear to me that the Brewers need to add in power bat somewhere in this lineup. You could do it at first base. I think that Andrew Vaughn could be, a guy who kind of rotates in at first or DH, or maybe as a bench bat, even just because he did have streaks of being both very hot and very cold. And I know there's a lot of value that we're getting out of Andrew Vaughn just because of his contract, but I really think the Brewers need to make a splash and sign or acquire somehow a big, serious power bat that is going to provide the rest of that lineup with some punch, because we have a lot of players who are like, and I say this lovingly and endearingly, but sort of the Isaac Collins, Caleb Durbin type, who are very good. And, Durbin is still emerging. He's a really fun ball player to watch. But he's still in that 10 to 15 home run range. I think we need somebody that can honestly be like the 30 to 40 home run type of guy in this lineup. And, the Brewers front office is going to come back and say, oh, well, a full year of healthy Churio and a full year of Andrew Vaughn, and that's where our power is going to come from. And I think that we still need more, is my point. And
yeah, and I still think the best offensive iteration of these Brewers moving forward would actually be putting Caleb Durbin at second base, where his numbers would be great. Moving Terang to shortstop, trading or whatever using for depth, Joey Ortiz, and
Yeah.
acquiring a big bopping third baseman. So that,
Well, that could be maybe that's the answer. To me, it's either there or first base or a legit DH. Like those are, and I know that Yelich is obviously going to get a lot of at bats at DH as our roster currently stands, but I still think he can play center field too if needed. So, but yes, there are
I think we'll
different
have a
places.
many hot stove podcasts coming up to discuss this in more
Yeah,
detail. But I mean, if you look at
yeah,
our trade pieces, even, obviously that rotation depth that we could trade from, but also Garrett Mitchell is someone that other organizations probably value. And not that we don't, but even his injury proneness, like he's possibly expendable. And then
yeah,
with the best farm system in baseball, outside of like holding on to our uber talented high ceiling guys like Jesus Mati or maybe Luis Pena, I think anyone else in our farm system should be made available to improve the club. And the time is now to make that type of trade, in my opinion.
yeah.
And I'm sure we could really land someone with even some team cost control for a couple of years if we're able to, put together a huge package that maybe is headlined by Mitchell and like a pitcher. And then,
Do you think that Mitchell's going to have that sort of trade value after all these injuries? I worry that he may not.
well, yeah, I think it won't be quite that high, but I think with adding in top prospects and to him, I think would really you could build a nice package. But we'll go over this in more detail as a hot stove
Yeah,
season moves on here. But again, out of the top 50 free agents and MLB trade rumors, four of their staff members made predictions on each player. Out of the 50 players, guess how many players that anyone, how many players that were predicted to go to the Brewers out of 50?
can you say that question again?
They had 50 free agents listed, and all four of the MLB trade rumor staff
Oh,
members made a prediction on
yeah,
what team that they would sign with. And out of all
yeah, yeah.
50,
Okay, got it. Um, Zero probably. I mean, we never signed anybody.
that's a good guess. It was the 50th free agent, Willie Castro. One of their staff members predicted that the Brewers would sign him, I'm assuming as a shortstop upgrade. So Willie Castro is possibly our only free agent target according to industry standards. And again, that's our total
Yeah,
MO. So I don't blame them for not guessing because it's not our MO to go out there and spend, even though I think the time is now to do such a thing, in my opinion.
I,
But with
I
that being
I
said,
agree, and I'm not saying we're going to go out and get like this guy, but I think that we need a bat like Pete Alonso. I mean, I think that we need somebody that can hit that many bombs in the middle of that lineup to anchor the lineup and to present a diversity of offensive attack options to make everybody else better too. The problem I have with our lineup right now, and again, I know we won the most games in the National League, but I also know we lost the NLCS, and I think that the problem is that pitchers can make adjustments, especially good pitching, can make adjustments to face the same type of offensive player, which the Brewers have a lot of guys in the Durbin, Collins, Frelick, even Lockridge mode. Guys who are
bat
pesky and they
battlers
come at
or
you.
woodpeckers.
Yeah, and I no, and I love those guys. I really do.
Yeah.
I just think that you can't have like six of those guys. You got to balance that lineup out, and then you got a couple guys on the bench that can do that too. If for late game at bats, that to me is a perfect role for Isaac Collins, by the way. And I know he was playing mostly because of injuries, but still. So that's my point is that you got to have a diverse offensive attack. I know that Christian Yelich has power, but I think he's now 20 home run guy or 25 if we're very lucky, not a 45, 40 home run type of guy, which is again what I think that we need. And we have a lot of those guys, like a couple guys in that stratosphere, like the Contreras, Yelich, power number types. Churio is currently still there. I think he is still going to go up, but again, he's still is a very young guy, and I want to make sure that we're giving him some support too. Again, I just think that we need some balance in that lineup.
I'm a power guy myself. I love
Yeah,
power.
yeah, you're a Prince Fielder, Rob Deere guy, man.
Yeah, as you know, over time, this iteration of the Milwaukee Brewers has made me change my tune a little bit as far as like different ways to build a roster. And I still think when it comes to postseason, like you're pointing out, having those power hitters are very invaluable. You need them.
Yep, you
And
do.
so with that being said, I did attend game two of the NLDS and we were down 3-0 after a 3-run bomb. And you didn't feel as a Brewer fan, I still felt confident we were going to win that game, which we ended up doing. And it wasn't because I thought we were going to hit bunch of home runs to come back, but I just thought we were going to battle back. And that's exactly what we did. But we actually did it by hitting home runs. 3-run home run from Andrew Vaughn,
Yeah,
who I think is
yeah,
capable of hitting 25 to even 35 home runs as an everyday regular. And then you've
yeah.
got Jackson Churio hit a solo shot to give us the lead 4-3 in that game. And I think he's not even reached near his ceiling. I think what he's had about
I
20,
agree.
22 home runs each of the last two, his first two seasons of Bigs. Expect 30 to 35 home runs from him next year. And then who else hit a home run that game? What
The
am I
Bowers.
thinking? Oh no, it was Contreras. I'm sorry, it was actually
Oh,
Contreras.
oh yeah,
Contreras
Contreras.
also hit a home
Contreras.
run.
Yeah,
And again, he had a
yeah,
down year in the power department too. I think he hit less than 15 home runs this year, and whereas I think he's capable of 25 plus. So again, other guys who I expect to have a power
he
uptick.
had 17 bombs this year.
Okay, yeah. So I think there's a little more to squeeze out of him. Then you've got Bryce Terang, who coming into this season, I thought was about a 15 home run hitter. I think he actually could have the upside of 25 plus after what he showed in August of last year, where I think he led the ML, the majors with was it 9 home runs in August, 8 or 9 home runs in August, which is phenomenal. And then after that, he kept
Yeah,
swinging for the fences and kind of
yeah. Ended up
so
with 18 bombs on the season with Terang. The interns have got the numbers here in front of me, but
yeah.
18 bombs for Terang on the
But
season.
I feel like there's 25 plus in him too. Sal
Well,
Frelick, I
that's
think,
all. That's exactly what the front office is going to say, Craig. I
yeah.
agree to a point. I think all these guys are going to, have a potential. But that being said, you could also have an injury again, to Jackson Churio. So he ends up hitting, 20 home runs again, like he did this year. He ended up with 21, and Christian Yelich may not hit 29 next year either. He might hit 20, and
That's true.
because that
Yep.
would be more in line with his post 2019 numbers. So he didn't have more than 20 home runs in a season until between 2020 and 2025 until this year. So for the 2020 to 2024 seasons, he was less than that. So it's not that we
I
don't
do
have guys.
100% agree with you, but I think if we're going to target via trade rather than free agency, we're going to not target a Rob Deere slash Eugenio Suarez swinging for the fences type with lots of
No,
strikeouts. We're
right.
going to look for a hitter that really has deep counts and has great strike zone judgment, all that stuff, but hits home
Yeah,
runs as well. And so Pete Alonso would be a great, and he of
Pete
course is
Alonso
a
would be
free
great.
agent. Um,
Yeah,
that would be a
that'd be
pipe
my
dream.
dream pickup.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would be great.
I
So
think that we were trying to do like Pete Alonso light with Reese Hoskins, quite frankly, because we got
yeah,
a bargain on that
basically,
free
yep.
agent contract when he was a free agent coming off of a season where he missed the entire year because of injury. And unfortunately, a lot of those injuries continued for Reese, different types of injuries. But I'm not going to say the Reese Hoskins experiment was a failure. And unfortunately, I hope it doesn't make the Brewers gun shy on doing things like that. But I
No, I
think
think
that
they'll
even
continue to
that was
buy low when they sign
even
Reese
even that, but
Hoskins.
even that was like bargain basement, bargain. What do you call it? Dumpster diving stuff. Like
Yeah,
Reese
to,
Hoskins is like, he's a really good hitter, but again, you're also talking about a guy who's different than a guy like Pete Alonso because he is injured all the time. Like that is his track record. He's been injured a good chunk of the time in Philadelphia too. He ended up hitting 237 with 12 bombs this year when we were expecting a guy who could possibly hit 30 home runs. And I'm not saying it was a failure. Like Reese is a great guy from all accounts, good teammate, big fan of his, but I'm not that upset that he's leaving either at this point because I think that the Brewers need to try something else and we can't really rely on Reese Hoskins because, again, this is a guy that played 40, 1 games and 20. Well, let's see, that was 2020. That was a weird season, but played 131 games and had a major injury in 2024, 90 games in 2025, played less than 110 games in 2021 in a full season. He's just not a guy who didn't play at all in 2023. He's just a guy who misses a lot of time with injuries. And that's unfortunate. And I think that
and
that's
he was
just
coming off a
sort of,
down season when we got him as a free agent, and so that was an example
yeah,
of a buy low by the Brewers where they actually got
yeah,
burned. And whenever you buy low, you could get burned probably half the time. But I think the Brewers' track record of buying low, especially recently, has been phenomenal. If you look at Quinn, I would say they like I don't think there's been a better example of buy low in Major League Baseball recent history, if not all of history, than Andrew Vaughn, who was in the minor leagues for the worst team in the majors when we
yeah,
acquired him. But
right.
Quinn Priester, I think, was a buy low candidate, which they hit
Yeah,
on. You could even say Chad Patrick when they got him. He was dealing with injuries to a couple organizations, and he still had a high ceiling as a former third rounder. And they bought low on him, and they're gonna benefit from that. So I think they're gonna have the same MO. So unfortunately, with Pete Alonso, I'd love it, but he's coming off a great season. Therefore, they're gonna have to pay
yeah.
sticker market price for him. I think that they're probably gonna be lying in the weeds buying low on a power hitter. So if we look through the free agents, I could probably guess a couple of the buy low candidates, and we'll go over this in future episodes here. But the bottom
Yeah,
line is,
yeah.
I do agree. If we don't, I don't think they're willing to pay for sticker price for someone like a free agent like Pete Alonso. With that being said, maybe they could deal for someone. The one guy that comes to mind is actually now rookie of the year candidate in the NL and like probably slam dunk. Nick Kurtz actually pushed Tyler Soderstrom, who is a young first baseman who got moved to the outfield, who's got 30 plus home run power, in my opinion, with a good strike zone judgment, also some catching experience, by the way. He seems like a perfect trade candidate for our team that could use some pitchers. I think if we traded Mitchell, Logan Henderson, and like one more prospect, we could probably get Tyler Soderstrom, and then you would have a corner infielder that could hit 35 plus home runs, who you've got team control of for 4 more years. So I think
Yeah, that
on
would
the
be that'd be the type of guy I'd like to target. And again, I'm not saying this guy is available, but a guy like a Matt Olson, like one of those types of guys who's got tons of power at a corner infield spot, to me is exactly what the Brewers need. And I bring this up knowing that we're going to have several, I'm sure, podcast episodes talking about the trade market and potential options for the Brewers to pick up this offseason in the Hot Stove League. I bring this up because it's directly correlated to our loss in the NLCS. So when we're talking about our lack of success in the NLCS, to me that is very reflective of not having this type of bat in the lineup, against the Dodgers.
Yep, couldn't agree with you more. And we'll see. It'll be an exciting offseason like it is every year. Like I said, thanks to podcasts like ours, the Roger Hornsbys of the world don't have to just stare out the window and wait for spring. They can listen to our podcast and get excited about the next year. So anyway,
That's true.
all right. So let's move on to our annual award recipients here from Brooker Review Awards for the Brewer Awards of the year. Let's start
Yeah, I
off.
have a feeling the mine are going to kind of mirror what the other our colleagues around the baseball media in Milwaukee gave last week as well.
And that's totally
But
fine.
yeah,
Let's start off with Brewer's Rookie of the Year.
that's a really good question. I'm gonna go with Chad Patrick. I think, well, yeah, I'm gonna go with Chad Patrick, and it's cool because we have so many options to choose from. I think you could make a case for Isaac Collins. I think you could make a great case for Caleb Durbin. I think you could make a great case for Jacob Mizorowski. Um, so I think that there are four deserving candidates. I'm going to go with Chad Patrick, and the reason why is because I think that he provided some stability in the rotation for the Brewers at a time of the season where we desperately needed it. When we had our very slow start, when we got swept by the Yankees to open up the year and lost to the Royals badly in the home opener, I think that Chad Patrick is a guy that within a week had given the Brewers something to really look forward to for the rest of the year. I know he spent a good chunk of the season in the minors, and that's the one detraction, and that's a very fair point. But I do think that his stability and his overall demeanor and his ability to come back up to the big leagues as needed throughout the course of the year several times and pitch well, including in the postseason every time when asked, I think is big. So I love Mizorowski. I think that he's going to be an ace. I think, though, that his season was a little topsy-turvy. You had very high highs and then some weird lows. And that's why I think that the steadiness of Patrick is kind of what won out for me.
Interesting. And of course, Chad Patrick infamously won our first game of the year, which is like about a week into the 2025 season.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, he was there. He was there to really patchwork when we were dealing with injuries at the beginning of the year. I mean, we really did not get out of the gate, stumbled out of the gates in 2025, which made our 97 win total for the season all the more remarkable, in my opinion. And I
Yeah,
think
and
that
to never have lost 4 games in a row during the 2024 season, to lose five to start the year, 4 to start the year, I think it was, to
yeah.
open up the 2025 season was just one of those like weird baseball anomalies that you hear about.
And that's why never in a million years would I thought we were going to get swept in the NLCS, but that's what happened. So it's baseball.
Yeah.
But okay, so my pick for rookie. Well, first of all, I want to start by saying I'm so glad gone are the days where the Brewers would just have one random terrible rookie
Yeah.
candidate like I don't
Yeah.
know, the Kevin Barkers of the world to be
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
best
Yeah.
player. And so this year though was a standout season for rookies on the Milwaukee Brewers baseball club. But unbelievable. Like so just to
Yeah.
rattle them off. Caleb Durbin, who actually is in the NL finalist for NL Rookie of the Year in the top three. Don't think he'll win it, but possibly. And then, of course, you had Isaac Collins of the unsung awesome season filling in, and I think he was a leading candidate
Yep.
for NL Rookie of the Year at one point during his hot
Yeah.
stretch. Then you've got the Miz kid, high ceiling, the next Paul Skeens, so to speak, in my opinion. Obviously, Jacob Mizorowski had a huge impact on the 2025 Brewers, in my opinion. Ups and
Yep.
downs, the
All
growing
star.
pains, all that stuff, all star. Eh, Whatever you want to say about Jacob Mizorowski, I think his true talent shined through in the playoffs this year, and I think that those
Yep.
the experience and the growth that he experienced by being able to pitch in those high leverage games is just going to serve him very well going forward. Um,
Yep. Yep. Totally
but
agree.
I mean, my heart wants to say Caleb Durbin absolutely deserves this. He led the NL in hit by pitches as well. He's just like the word. If you look up the word gritty in the dictionary, there's got to be a picture of Caleb Durbin there. There just has to be. With that
Yeah.
being said, I'm giving my award to Jacob Mizorowski just because I think his impact. Uh, he's just to me the most talented rookie that we had, and it showed in the postseason. But
Yeah.
all apologies to Caleb Durbin. I really think he probably deserves it. But that's who I'm going to give it to the Mizorowski because he did qualify for Rookie of the Year this year. So okay, moving on to all right. Let's go to our Offensive Player of the Year. Um, for the
Offensive player of the year. I yeah, offensive player of the year. I think I'm gonna go with. That's a
or
good
hitter of the
question.
year. I don't know how we traditionally
Yeah,
always.
I know that. So to me, the hitter of the year, our offensive player of the year, is going to be separate from the team MVP. Just to be clear, so I'm going to have a different guy on this.
Oh, okay.
So my offensive player of the year is going to be Sal Frelick. I think that his consistency, his ability to get on base, is top of the order stuff. I would have given it to Churrio without that injury, I think, but I think that the fact that Frelick plays through pain most days, I think, both
Yeah.
with that knee and with the hamstring, and yet still manages to get like it seems like 2 hits every game is pretty remarkable. I'm going to go with Sal Frelick as my offensive player of the year.
Great pick. I'll go with Bryce Terang, who I think
Yeah,
moved himself up a tier in the, almost close to, I'm going to say Trey Turner light. I mean, he's got
yeah,
30 to 50 stolen base ability, and I think he's got 25 plus home run power, and I think he's a 280 or above hitter. So if that's not close
yeah,
to being Trey Turner, I don't know what is. So I mean, he's and not only that, and then you throw in the unbelievable defense, which again, this is an offensive award, but I mean, just a complete player. So I'll go with Terang. Okay, so our
yeah. And
starting.
I don't know if we want to segue. I mean, right into team MVP, but if you do,
Sure,
we
well, I
can.
guess we'll do that. Go ahead, team
Yeah,
MVP.
because that is mine absolutely is Bryce Terang, and our colleagues around Milwaukee baseball media agreed, and Bryce Terang was officially voted as the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers most valuable player, and I don't know, I think my ballot got lost in the mail or something, but I sent one in, just on a piece of paper to the address that I printed out myself, and I put Bryce Terang for sure. So Bryce Terang is absolutely my most valuable player because of what you said. I think that he's offensively he's just as good as Sal on many levels. I picked Sal for that just uh, because I think that Sal deserves some recognition for something. But between and they both play great defense, but I think that Bryce is being in the position that he is in the middle of the infield, being a captain of that infield, and doing everything with the bat, including the power numbers, getting up to 18 bombs this year, 81 RBIs, 24 stolen bases, walking a bunch. I think that his OBP was 359, batting average is 288. Like across the board, this dude is just like putting up numbers that are remarkable for a second baseman. I mean, so I 100% Bryce Trang is my team MVP, and I think we've said that kind of throughout the year.
Yeah, and I don't regret letting you use our podcast Talkers Association official vote
Yeah,
for Brewers MVP of the year because I think that's a great pick. With that being said, I'm going to go with just a change ball on this one, and mine is William Contreras, and a large part just because
yeah,
I think that our pitching was a backbone of our team, starting and
yeah,
late pitching, and this is a guy who was out there almost every single day. It's hard to get this guy even out of the lineup. I love that mentality and player. I love the fact that he played hurt. I just think
yeah,
that if you take William Contreras, and as much as we were all upset as Brewer fans about the Josh Hader trade and the timing of it and all that stuff. Without that Josh Hader trade, William Contreras is not a Milwaukee Brewer, and I think that this guy is the backbone of our team, in my opinion. And he really
Yeah.
showed it this year. He, like I said, he was a little bit down in the power department, but overall, he was out there battling. He showed up in the postseason with some power, and yeah, like he's just there's some it factor he has that I think Willie Adames had, and we lost that when we lost Willie. But William Contreras is right here to pick up the bag, and I think he's my MVP of the Brewers overall for 2025. I really think he gritted his way through an unbelievable season. So, um,
Well, he is like Willie in more ways than one. He is dating Willie's sister, actually, so that is his girlfriend, and so there is still that. And also, William Contreras is a great pick. He did win that award officially, by the way, as you probably know or remember, in 2023 and 2024. So certainly he's getting some recognition, and deservedly so. I think that it was Terang or Contreras could be, or Frelick, quite frankly, could all be reasonable picks for the award. So I'm leaning. I went towards Terang just because I felt like he deserved some recognition after William had won it the last couple of years. But you could make a great case for any of those guys, in my opinion. And one other weird quick stat about William Contreras that will both surprise you, I think, and show you his tenacity and staying in the lineup. William Contreras has been a Milwaukee Brewer for just 3 seasons, 2023, 2024, and 2025. And already, because of the amount of games that William Contreras has played, he has 1,949 plate appearances as a Milwaukee Brewer, which puts him 51 plate appearances short already in just those 3 seasons of earning a spot on the Brewers' Wall of Honor.
it's
The benchmark is
unbelievable.
15. The benchmark is 1,500 plate appearances to become you're inducted into the team's Wall of Honor. They don't do it with active players, obviously. They'll wait till his retirement, probably many years from now. But just in that amount of time, after his first couple weeks, week and a half, even week and a half of the 2026 season, William Contreras will have already qualified for the
It's
team's Wall of
unbelievable.
Honor. Yeah,
And
isn't that crazy? That's
looking
a
back at
wild
like
stat. I kind of keep track of, and I just, that countdown is already on for that, which is just incredible.
Yeah, he's just such a great player and so valuable to this team. But I
Yeah.
mean, looking back on some of the best trades in the future for history, I mean, it's people are going to shake their heads at how the heck we were able to get William Contreras for like a 4th
Yeah.
outfielder, basically, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And he's I think he might even be out of baseball by this point. So I mean, the bottom
Well,
line is,
after Ruiz didn't even make the Dodgers postseason roster. I mean,
no.
and William Contreras
If he
was
did, he would be a
one of our.
pinch runner slash 5th or 6th
Yeah,
outfielder.
he's already with a different organization than the organization we made that trade with. I mean, we made that. People forget that was a 3-way trade between the Brewers, Braves, and
Yeah.
Athletics that brought Contreras in, and Ruiz went to then Oakland, and since then he's already been let go for nothing to the Dodgers, and he was in the majors this year off and on, but essentially like a 4A type of player at this
I
point.
feel like we were the domino trade recipients of that. What like for we were just there to catch the last falling domino because if you remember, Shea Langoliers was acquired by the Braves earlier that year,
Yeah,
and that's the reason why they thought uh, their other catcher was expendable. Forget Sean Murphy, and that's why
yeah,
he
Sean
was
Murphy.
part of that
Yeah,
deal going to. And once the Braves were able to get Sean Murphy, then they were like, well, anyway, yeah. So you see, it was a catching domino thing, and we ended up getting Contreras as like extra. He wasn't no longer his services weren't needed, so we were very fortunate to be on that.
yeah.
Anyway, okay, moving on.
And
So
if you want to tie that trade circle like full circle, Manny Pena was also in that trade. The Braves sent Manny Pena to Oakland.
oh, yeah, that's
in
right,
that
that's
deal.
right. All right, starting pitcher of the year.
Freddie Peralta, no question about it. In my opinion, well, there's questions about it, just because we had a lot of talent in starting pitching. But Freddie Peralta gets my vote. I think you
Yeah,
can make
I
a
feel
case
he
for
should have
Quinn.
been an All Science finalist. He was not in the top 3, but I'll go with Freddie too. His best season
Yeah.
ever. But Quinn Priester, I think, would be a strong runner-up, obviously, for the
Yep.
unbelievable run he was on. All right, so our relief pitcher of the year.
I'm gonna go with Abner Uribe. I just love how he stepped up this year. Miguel had a great year too. I just think that he had some injuries that he was dealing with. I just think that day in and day out, incredible talent and passion.
I feel like it, and I think next year
All
is the first.
attributes.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No, I was just gonna say Abner Uribe is my guy, and Jared Koenig's actually my number 2.
Oh, nice. Okay. Um, I think next year the MLB is officially having, is it responsible, is it the a relief pitcher of the year award for the
We
first
already
time.
have that. The reliever of the year is already a thing.
Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be like a hardware type thing or something. I don't know. It's going to be more official starting 2026. But
No.
if it were this season, I would have believed Abner Uribe would have been a candidate to get it throughout all of baseball, not just in the NL. With that being said, he's not
Yeah.
my pick. I love Trevor McGill. He had a great first half, made the All-Star team. Because of his
Yep.
injury, I took him off my list, even though I think he deserved it. I'm actually going with Aaron Ashby. Again,
Yeah,
I
that's
want
a
to be a
great
little
pick
bit
too.
non-traditional with this pick. There has not been a more valuable middle reliever, if that's what you want to call him, in baseball over
Yeah.
the last decade that I can think of than what he contributed to 2025 Brewers. So I'll just leave it at that. So, all
Yeah,
right, that
I agree with Ashby, and I love. I think Jared Koenig had a great year. I think that he is very understatedly important to that bullpen, and I also want to give a little props to Nick Mears, who I know went through it a little bit later on in
yeah,
the year in like August, but I think Nick Mears, given the workload that Pat Murphy entrusted him with, was able to really lock down some major innings for the Brewers, pitched multiple innings multiple times. Sort of being that first guy out to be in a very tough situation after the starting pitcher gets removed from a game at times. Um, I think that Nick Mears is an understatedly very important part of that bullpen, and even guys like Grant Anderson I think stepped up. I don't think there was a ton of weak spots. And when he's healthy, DL Hall is incredible coming out of the bullpen, and like you said, obviously Ashby and the outside of a couple of guys that the Brewers cut ways with during the course of the year, like Piamps and Bagero and Tyler Alexander, we didn't have like weak spots in this bullpen. They were pretty strong from start to finish.
yeah, our bullpen is unbelievable, and the depth of it and the quality. And you cannot tell the story of the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers without it having a huge chapter dedicated to our everyday bullpen arms, and that is our righty Nick Mears, as you mentioned, and our lefty
Yep.
Jared Koenig. Basically, Murphy went to them almost every single game. I mean, obviously they probably were in the
Yeah.
top players of appearances for at least the first half of the year, and so I mean, yeah, they were definitely relied upon and great additions to this club. But our official picks are you picked Uribe, I went with Ashby, so
Yep.
that leads
Yep.
us
You're
to
reading.
our unsung player of the year award, which I feel this year, just like the rookies, have probably more candidates for unsung player of the year award than any year that I could remember. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting
Totally agree.
pick.
Mine is actually Ashby. I think that he did not get the press that he probably deserved. Another guy who was taking the ball so many days of the week. I mean, I had a chance to talk with him a little bit in Arlington when the Brewers were playing down here in Texas in early September, and I made a joke with him. I said, "Man, like you pitch like every day," and he just started laughing. He's like, "Yeah, but that's my job," and I love that response. And he to me is that mentality is so important. I'm gonna pick Ashby as my unsung Brewer of the year.
And he might have been, he's definitely our unsung player of the postseason, as I believe he not only pitched in almost every postseason
He
game, but he
started everything.
started like half of them. I don't know if there's a record for, if we would have went another round, I think he would have maybe broke some kind of record for the most starts in postseason. But obviously as
My
an
in laws,
opener, but
Craig, my in laws, Lena's parents, they're very good baseball fans and they're Astros fans, and they become Brewer fans because of me, to a point.
oh yeah.
And they're so they watch like all the Brewers playoff games, and they're like Ashby again as the starting pitcher. Like they would text me. It was pretty funny because for people that don't watch the Brewers like every day, who are also baseball fans enough to know what the hell's going on, it was pretty funny to like see they were how confused people were as to why Ashby was going to start for like his fourth game of the postseason in a week.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. So anyway, I still want somehow Abner Uribe to pitch twice a day so we can call him Abner Doubleday. But anyway, that's just a little pipe dream of mine. Anyways, my unsung hero candidates, Ashley's a great pick, and that's why I have him as a reliever of the year. But I mean, all these candidates are so strong; it's unbelievable. Okay, so my third on my list, I'll start there, was Isaac Collins. Dude, there could
Yeah,
not be going back. I went to spring training. I wanted to go with you, Vince, but you weren't available. But I went with my buddy Jason, and we're there. watching pre-game, first spring training game, whatever, and there's guys all over the place. It's like warming up, whatever. My buddy Jason goes to me, he's like, "Who's that guy right there? The small guy?" Like, and I was like, I don't even see his number. I don't even I don't know who the hell it is." And like literally, I knew every single other brewer. And I'm like, how do I not recognize this guy? Figured out it was Isaac Collins. Fast forward, whatever, like 8 months or whatever, and this guy was a rookie of the year candidate. I mean, he filled in
Yeah,
for when Garrett Mitchell went down. He is the classic. He's like a microcosm of what made the 2025 Brewers successful.
dude,
He's a bat battler. He's very good defensively. Now again,
dude had a 368 OBP, this past year, which is pretty good for a guy in his role.
yeah, and he came up through the minor leagues as a second baseman, and I think it was during the offseason that Pat Murphy said to him, like, "Hey, we might need you to play outfield. Is that right?" He's like, "Yep, I can play outfield, no problem." And not only did he do that, but he did it at almost a gold glove level quality in left field. I mean, he was unbelievable on defense. He's unbelievable with the bat. And now the 2026 Brewers, he probably doesn't even have a starting role, most likely. So, I mean, again,
Yeah.
unsung hero. There can't be a better candidate than Isaac Collins. However, he somehow finished third on my list. Number two on my list finishes
That was a good
Quinn
setup.
Quinn Priester, who he
Yeah.
acquired. And again, I was not super excited when the trade happened, but the Brewers ended up winning like every single time he started for like several months in a row. He's got unbelievable pitch that can get a ground ball whenever he wants. He's a double play machine. His stuff, the Brewers knew about him. They've been targeting him via trade. He was our number two pitcher in the postseason. I mean, um,
Yep.
again, he's just unbelievable. He came out of nowhere and is a valuable part of this team in this year and going forward. However, my actual recipient of the 2025 Milwaukee Brewers Unsung Hero Award is going to go to Andrew Vaughn, who was plucked from
Mm.
the minor leagues of the Chicago White Sox, who lost, I think, what, 130 games or something last year. He could not even make their starting offensive lineup somehow the first couple months of the year. And the Brewers were able to get him for again, almost under the whim. Like when everyone got healthy, it kind of bumped um, Savali off of his starting role, and he's like, "Well, I'm a starting pitcher, so I guess I'd like to be traded." And they're like, oh, "Okay, so cool." And by the next
Cool.
day, he was like traded for Andrew Vaughn, and everyone's like, "Okay, well, whatever." But the bottom line, I'm like, we have Reese. Why do we need this guy? But the bottom line is, Andrew Vaughn propelled us offensively throughout most of the second half of the season. His power, his RBIs, he was driving guys in left or right. He was huge in the postseason too. In fact, our unbelievable series win and the NLDS against the Cubs, he came up with huge key home runs in several games, including the go-ahead in Game 5. I mean, this guy, unsung player of the year, he's
He had
got
46 RBIs in 64 games with Milwaukee. I mean, that's pretty incredible.
yeah, that's on
He
pace
hit
for like
308.
120 or something. Yeah, I mean, it's
Yeah, hit
unbelievable.
308 batting average. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
So I don't expect him to hit quite that well going forward, but I do think that he is a hidden, an uncovered gem. He was formerly the third overall pick in um, the entire MLB draft. And again, I think the talent is there, and I think he's going to hit 25 to 30 home runs with close to 100 RBIs if he's hitting the middle of our order, batting every day at second base. So again, love to have Pete Alonso, but if you want Pete Alonso light, we found him just sitting there at AAA in Chicago in the middle of the season. So all kudos to Executive of the Year, Matt Arnold. I don't know if he's officially getting that award yet, but he should be a shoe-in. And also congratulations to Pat Murphy, who has not yet brought home the hardware for NL Manager of the Year, but he only has to beat out Terry Francona, former Brewer, of course, and a great manager, but nonetheless, or Rob Thompson, who I actually was even surprised if he'd
Yeah.
come back and be a Phillies manager again next year. So I feel like Francona is his only real possible guy who can knock him out of that. And the Reds did have a nice year, but I think Murphy should be
The Reds,
shooting to win that back to back. So we'll see
yeah, I agree.
the next couple of weeks. Those
I mean,
awards
the
are
Reds
going to be
the Reds are at a nice year, but they won 83 games. Like, let's not crown them at the same level of success as other
93 wins.
national league
Yeah,
companies.
no, I totally agree. So real quick, let's just go over since we have 2 minutes left of the podcast. But who do we think will be the MLB? They're going to be announced in the next couple of weeks here. Uh, MLB awards. We just went over the manager of the year. Let's go rookie of the year, NL and AL.
Um, I got to look through the final
Okay,
names.
yeah.
I've been a little
Caleb
off since I
Durbin
last
is
looked
one
at
of
it.
the finalists. Drake
Yeah, I don't think
Baldwin.
Caleb is going to win it.
I think
So
NL,
I,
it's going to be Drake
yeah,
Baldwin, I'm pretty sure. And the AL
yeah,
is
Drake
almost
Baldwin.
a shoe-in to be Nick Kurtz, who had an unbelievable season for the A's.
Yep, yep, that's true.
And
I
then
agree.
the
I agree with both of those picks.
Cy Young Award winners. I think Chris Sanchez is a dark horse, but I think Paul Skeens gets it once again. And in the AL, I'd say runner-up will probably be Garrett Crochet, but the winner will be returning back-to-back winner Trick Skubal is most
Yeah, I
likely.
think the Trey Skubal is a good pick. I did hear from our anonymous source, Tom Carter, that his vote went to Skubal. So, for what it's worth, we know
Oh
how our
yeah,
anonymous source, Tom
he's
Carter, voted.
don't
Yep,
give out his name because he does have a vote. So yeah, that's most likely going to
yep,
be. I'll probably be anonymous if TC is saying that. So anyway, all right,
yeah.
MVP. I mean, I think there's no question in the NL
Shohei.
that
Yeah, it's got to be Shohei.
Babe Ruth 2.0.
I'm gonna go Shohei, and I'm gonna go Cal Raleigh in the American League.
Yeah,
Doing that as a catcher, I think is incredible, and I think Aaron Judge would certainly merit a MVP award. That being said, I think Cal Raleigh is probably my vote.
yeah, I would also vote for Raleigh. If I had to guess, it's going to go to Judge because if you look at the pure numbers and the WAR or whatever people really love that look like at these days, I think Judge has him beat by a
Yeah,
little bit. But if you factor in the catcher factor,
yeah,
the 60 plus home runs as a catcher is unbelievable and ridiculous.
yeah. It's a position for me. That's really what ends it at the end
Yeah,
of the day. I think
I
that
can't agree. And
Cal
not only
Raleigh,
that,
and
but how
that being
much?
said, the impact on his team too. You know, the Yankees are pretty loaded, and Judge clearly has a huge impact. And I mean, no disrespect, I actually love Aaron Judge,
No,
but
do these
I
votes
just think
get
the Cal
turned in
Raleigh,
before the postseason starts? Because I feel like that would
they
almost be a
do,
detriment to Raleigh because obviously Raleigh's team
they
went a little
do.
farther than Judge's. So I almost think that should
They
factor in. But again, this is a regular season
they
award.
do get turned in before the postseason, and the reason why is because they don't want to like prejudice guys who play well in the postseason, but are going against guys that don't have that opportunity to play in the
Yeah, I get
postseason.
that.
You know,
I don't
yeah,
disagree with that. So, but that being said, Raleigh I think deserves it in any other year, but I'll probably go to Judge. But Otani,
yeah,
I mean, this
no
guy,
brainer.
it's just. It'll be hard to see him not win. I mean, it'll be his fourth MVP award already. And granted, he's not
Yeah,
still a young guy. He's over 30 now. I think he's going to turn 31. But I mean, the bottom line is, I think he still has a couple more MVPs in there. And he will now, if he indeed lands his fourth MVP award, he will ultra only Barry Bonds 7 for the most in history. So there's that.
yep,
So
yep.
I
That
think
and that being said, the MVP award didn't take its current iteration until the 1950s, so he's not directly going against Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and others
yeah.
in that specific category. So just to be fair and to be clear to our listeners, just as the baseball history nerd of the group, I wanted to point that out.
I wonder if someone went back in time and like or the Baseball Writers Association should almost do that and like award
Well,
like not give
there's a
official, but
different awards were handed out. It was just they weren't called the MVP. They were called different things, and there were several different iterations of that. And so it is doable. You could make the argument that those awards were essentially MVP awards. It's just you can't call them that when the guys at that time didn't call them that. And that's
yeah.
the issue is that
I mean, how many Moonshine
it's hard for me
Awards
to
did
place
Babe
that
Ruth win?
term and being like, oh, Babe Ruth, you won 10 MVP awards when Babe Ruth didn't know of that term. And that's kind of where I'm at with it.
But I'd be kind of curious looking at Babe Ruth. I'm sure he would have won at least half a dozen, right? I'd assume, but
Oh, I gotcha. I mean, his numbers were
I mean, the one thing people
really
really
huge.
don't wrap their head around, as amazing as Otani was, Babe Ruth, back when I think one year he led the league with like 15 home runs or something, or around 20, and then the next year he had like 55. So he had more
Yeah.
home runs as last seasons than the entire teams did, the most entire other teams did. So he was head and shoulders above some of the competition back. But anyway, when it came to
But,
power,
but the hard part too is that with those awards back in the day, there was this rule, and even though it wasn't called the MVP award, there was this rule that you couldn't win the award more than once
oh, okay.
ever. So back in the 20s and 30s, Babe Ruth probably would have won. He played from 14 to 1935. My guess is that he would have won like literally 15 years of his career. I mean, seriously, when you look at the black ink on baseballreference.com. So but the issue was is that MLB had this like fairness rule type of thing where you couldn't have a multiple award winner ever. So you had guys, and so that's why it's really hard to judge this. And then in the 50s is when it started in its current iteration. I think it was 1952. And at that point, you had guys that were able to, it was 51 or 52, somewhere in there. And then you had guys that were able to, win back-to-back awards or multiple awards throughout the course of their career. But back in Babe Ruth's day, you couldn't even win it again ever. It was a one-time thing.
Yeah, I get it totally. So I should point out at this point, not to end on a sour note or anything like that, that the Brewers did not take home any Gold Glove awards this year, unfortunately. But I think we'll bounce
Yeah.
back again next year. We did have a great team defense this year, and we will going forward. But I do want to wish the best of luck to Pat Murphy and Caleb Derwin, our two nominees for big awards, as award season here happens in November, and also a post or happy belated, I should say, belated happy birthday to you, Vince. I know your birthday is
Hey, thanks,
last
man.
week, and was hoping to be
Appreciate that. Yeah,
celebrating.
a couple days ago, had a nice birthday. We were, it was pretty calm. We went to like a dinner thing that night, or we went out for dinner, but we went to a little event before that, and came home and opened up some nice gifts from my wife, and literally all of them were sort of not sort of, they were baseball related. So she
Yeah, no, you
knows me
sent me a
well.
picture of everything she got you. So, I mean, I'm actually not nominate Vince's wife Lena as unsung hero of the year. Actually, after that
The fact
haul
the
that you
fact that
got for
she
your
knows that
birthday.
there's the fact that she knows that the Top company makes a baseball advent calendar, and Craig, you really should look at that for your kids, or for at least JJ,
Yeah,
if he's the most into it. But like, she got that for me as a big child, and it's like you get to open up for Advent season a pack of baseball cards every day between December 1st and Christmas Eve, which is pretty awesome. And there's like special inserts and their Christmas cards, and she did this for me last year too for Christmas, or like St. Nick's Day or something. And I remember I had William Contreras sign one, and he looked at it and he was like, "Whoa, cool!" Like it's like William Contreras with like Christmas packages behind him on the card. So it's kind of, I don't think he had seen it before. So anyway, it's
awesome.
kind of a cool gift idea for any listeners with kids, or for your kids certainly,
Yeah, somehow,
or for us, like because I'm a grown man and I still love it. So whatever.
gotta have her sneak in there under the 24th day, like as a special surprise, like a 2005 Brook Review Christmas card refractor, one of one or
Yeah,
something like
man.
that. Yeah.
Gold, one of one, gold chrome. Yeah, absolutely.
Gold Chrome, Scott Bartell Saves Christmas postcard for 2025.
Great, graded, mint condition, PSA, DNA certified. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely love that. So, all right. Well, we'll have happy holidays coming up here for it. We'll be back during the hot stuff season. We'll definitely be speaking to you before Christmas time in the next couple of weeks here. And then, so stay classy, Chicago, and go Brewers.
Yeah, and remember, guys, give us a follow on Twitter, Brew Crew Review. One on Twitter, and obviously send your emails to Scotty, Brew Crew Review Podcasts with an S at gmail.com. And thanks to Scotty, Chad, and Vikram for all their work on today's show.
Absolutely. All right, stay classy. Go Brew Crew.
All right, thanks, Craig. Go Brewers.